KRA for people, if you don't define that KRA, the person will not remain focused. You know, I mean, look at this is how we are trained. From the time we were in school, we got a KG report card. We got first, second, third, fourth, all the way till we post graduated. And that is how we keep our focus. If we know what to do, and this is what we're going to be also looking at. And then you have KRAs, you have KPIs, you have incentives, but the reward is not focused on the result. And that is the misalignment of incentives. And a lot of salespeople begin to get very, kind of, I'd say, disoriented with it. So what do? You have to define your sales strategy. And this is before you build the team. Because if you are today wanting to diversify, let's say you are in you're in food business, and you're manufacturing cookies, but you want to diversify and say that, okay, this is getting very competitive, so from food let me move to maybe garments. And that strategy doesn't necessarily mean that, that experience that you have doesn't necessarily mean that you can translate it to the best strategy in the garments business. So you will have to have a very clear strategy on what is the market for garments, or if you're going into the footwear, or if you're going into the perfume, or if you're going into, again, even if you're going into foods, let's say you were making cookies, but if you wanted to go into hydroponics and say that I'm going to grow very healthy organic stuff hydroponically. So your strategy is going to be completely different. And that is what is very important. Sell existing products in current type of markets, yes, repeatability, territory coverage, efficient execution. If you have to sell existing products in new markets, you need to have market education, localization, like we said, you might have a great designer, but the garments that she or he designs are probably not workable in Calcutta because of the humidity, or are not workable in Kanpur, because Kanpur has a little bit of a closed culture. They don't like women wearing off-shoulder dresses, and the whole environment doesn't feel very, fair to women, let's say, so maybe it will not sell there. Then there is launch new products in existing markets. So your market. But like I said, you are in the foods business, cookie banata hai, abhi cookie chhod ke, let us get into hydroponics, that's foods. Let us get into bottled, products like juices or milk, or, something which is very interesting. But is in the food space. So this requires account expansion, upselling, same customers maybe, you might have their access, you might be aligned with them, but how do you bring in the new product into their ecosystem? The last one, launch new products in new markets. This is the most challenging one. You don't know the market, you don't know what people like there, you don't know what your customers are. Even let's say manufacturing, I have a client who manufactures quads, and they were selling quads for making engineered stone in the Far East and to the US. Now, when they decided to venture and sell the same things in Turkey, it was a very difficult ball game for them, because Turkey had a very different perception about engineered stone. They wanted certain colors, they had very difficult I'd say infra, where things were not really working out very well. So when you're entering with a new product in a new market, the challenges are the maximum. So what should you have as a checklist? And especially, when you're hiring somebody, does he have market focus? So the exact customer segment we are targeting, does he know if I have to sell perfumes, or if I have to sell, I'd say, even automotive parts, if I have to sell piston rings, if I have to sell axles, which are my customers? Do they really know that market? Do they know the territory and how to really work out, what is the potential, how do we cover it, what kind of a model? Do we have a very, very aggressive on the ground sales model, or it's a brand push? Let's say your organization is a fantastic brand presence, so it becomes a very different way of covering that territory, and that strategy is very different. Are we hunting, farming, upselling, channel building? We'll go to hunting, farming, upselling, channel building. What does it mean? Role. Do we know which sales role is needed first? Yes. What kind of salesperson do you know? Do you need somebody who knows how to just explore markets, come back with, information and data, or do you really want somebody, out there, get the kill? So that's very important. Also, most important is leadership. You get a sales team over. आपने 15 लोग recruit कर लिया, and these people are spread out over, let's say, a geographic area, maybe let's say all of North India. So it could be Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, and then you say that, okay, go out, start selling. But did you ever coach these people on what was your product? How would you approach these markets? Are there people inside the system who have understood these geographies and have coached these individuals to handle psyche? Because, selling in Maharashtra is very different than selling in Tamil Nadu. So that coaching is very important. And how do you keep an eye on your salespeople and see where they're making a mistake, helping them out, making sure that they actually are focused to delivery? The process. You need to have a very, very defined and systematic process. Yes, there can be some variations upar niche, because not everything and every day is same. Not every situation is same. So I think that is absolutely the ground rule. Lay down the standard operating procedures. What are their responsibilities? What is their authorization? What decisions are they authorized to take, and for what do they have to escalate it to the next higher level? But yes, like we talked, KPIs, incentives, and the role of the founder. That is very important. The founder has to have a mental makeup of knowing that the people I've hired are individuals. हम बोलते हैं ना, हमने उसको नौकरी दिया, पर नौकरी दिया में वो नौकर नहीं हुआ. They are not your servants. If that mindset changes, and I'm telling you, I am not ashamed to say that this is very, very rampant. दे तो रहे हैं उसको पैसा, काम क्यों नहीं कर रहा है? कितना? क्या कहा? 6 दिन क्यों नहीं आता वो? हाफ डे छुट्टी क्यों लिया है? उसका पैसा काटो. Come on, you're dealing with humans. And in times like today, if that's the approach you have, then I think you're going to have a very difficult time moving forward, because the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha are not ready to listen to all of this. Gaye wo wala din jab I'm a baby boomer. Then there were the millennials. Even if there was no electricity in office, we used to sit and work. If our bosses said, take it, I want this finished by 9:30 p.m. tonight, we would sit there. It's not so. So I think there's a lot of adaptability that you have to be open to as a founder. Any questions so far? Please. So I'm moving ahead. Designing your sales organization. सब
No,
बोलते हैं
no,
जब
no.
तक right.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I was talking in the mute. So,
Rajesh ji, you've gone on mute again. Can't hear you.
yeah, I think the host muted me.
Okay, no, no, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, what I was asking in the previous slide, we are talking about this repeatable sales playbook.
Yeah.
That sounds something interesting, you know. You will be covering more on this playbook in the coming slides, or something we should wait for.
No, I'm not covering this because no, I could have, but my focus here in this module is more on the hiring piece.
Okay.
And well, the repeatable playbook, let me give you an example. You know, um, Paytm, when they were launching Vijay Shekhar, and I have interacted with him, when they were launching Paytm across the country, he was very particular, and we were working on micro modules and how to train his salespeople who are going to um, vegetable vendors, who are going to, chota outlets, and they had a micro training module on their mobile phones, and it had to be completed, it had to be done, and that study material there was that playbook. They were asked to go through it, read it, and also appear for, I think it was a 1 minute test that we had put for them, and that grounded them completely. And what happened was Paytm was able to expand across the country very rapidly because they had created this whole structure. The whole learning was in place for people who even joined and had to, so they were not made to sit in a classroom saying that, and we'll train you for 5 days and this is what you have to do. Versus MobiQuick, they both came around the same time. MobiQuick did not do this. MobiQuick was a little more slow in their approach to, adapting to how things were, and they lost. I mean, the amount of ground that Paytm covered so quickly was purely because it had given to its teams, and right to the ground level. These guys were people who were going and talking to the sabji wala, baji wala, and saying that, how important it is to have that Paytm, and they were trying to link it to Pradhan Mantri account scheme, the bank account scheme. And these people were very happy. They said, when we have money and we take it back home after we've sold clothes or shoes or vegetable, it just gets blown up. And the beauty was, especially the women folk, so it went to the bank and they just withdrew what was required and they were saving money. So, which MobiQuick could not do. And yeah, it's there in the market still, they're surviving. But that playbook, I'm sure it's going to be covered in the other modules that have been designed. But if there is at some other point in time, I think through Naved and Shruti, I can connect with you and take you through how it's done. Yeah.
Sure, ma'am. I think, some examples, if there is any good examples on upselling playbook, like,
I
closure of
can.
deals.
We can
Any
connect.
of that examples is there, I think that will be a great help. I understand maybe it may vary from company to company based on
It does.
nature,
It
but
does.
just getting to see some examples might help us.
Oh, yes. I mean, this was one
Thank you.
example. Then there's several others, like in the hospitality space also. Um, uh, Mr. Rajesh, what's the business that you're into?
We are into e-commerce, so where we have almost like 8 different brands, and
Oh,
we have 3,000 products we sell under the 8 brands.
okay. Okay, interesting.
And why I'm asking this is also we have a separate wholesale team where we sell the same product to other companies B2B.
Okay, okay, interesting.
All right. Thank you.
So, designing your sales organization. Now, you know, this is something that the whole world wants. When I interact with people, we are looking for someone with the wisdom of a 50-year-old, the experience of a 40-year-old, the drive of a 30, and the pay scale of a 20. It is a challenge. I'm telling you, and I'm being very honest about it. I think a lot of business owners and especially founders, you know, they have roughed it out. They have come ground up. And many of them have probably started out with, an investment of maybe 1 lakh or 50,000. And they say that we've roughed it in life. So I want somebody who's energetic, who's good, who's brilliant, who's nice, who's intelligent. But first, let me try the guy out. Let me pay him 25,000, for the first 6 months. If he does well, then, yes, I'm going to reward him. He's going to be given a better salary. And this is where, there are so many gaps in hiring and shortlisting. So, when the evolution, how does a founder evolve his sales organization? So when there's a founder-led sales, the founder sells directly, learns about the market, and captures repeatable sales process. Then he goes to a point where he says, no, I want to hire my first few salespeople. And salespeople then work very closely with the founder and they execute what the founder has proven to be as a successful thing. And why? Because the founder coaches them, the founder works with them in defining many things, whether it's territories, whether it's the benefits of the product, all of that. From there, move to the next level. You have a team now for 5 people and you want to move them, and these 4-5 people would have grown and you want to also expand and give them teams under. So you give them that managerial, you create that managerial layer. The manager drives anywhere. We don't have to go into the details. There's a sales pipeline, he reviews, he looks at the performance, and he shifts from individual selling to team management. That's the founder. He says, okay, great, I've trained you guys, now I'm giving you 3 people under each one of your managers. Now you do what I did to you. The next higher stage is the sales leader. Then you get chief sales officer, your chief marketing officer, business development officer. And here, the leader owns the strategy. This guy, the sales leader, he owns by working very closely with the founder, forecasting what kind of people we need to hire, how can we scale up, and also looking at the culture of the organization, what is the accountability. So then this becomes like a full sales organization, and every level has an impact on the business, and that impact gets converted to, we'll talk about it, the incentive plan. So yes, when you're talking about the sales leader that you want to hire, what that matters more than the first salesperson. And when you're talking about territories, see, what does it show? It shows that it's not just geographic. It could have many meanings. The territories could mean in the same place expanding because you have different type of customers. You might want to bring in another product line. There could be some new versus some old products which you want to repackage. I don't know how many of you are old enough to have seen a brand called Vico. Vico, when we were very, 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 very tiny, when I was going to junior school, they were launched, and they talked about turmeric, creams, and tooth powders and toothpastes, which were very, very Ayurvedic based. And then something happened, they just kind of went quiet. I think the sales hit a little low. But again, some years ago, they pushed themselves into the revival or the renewal. So that's also, this is also a new sales territory. Everything has changed. Sara India badal gaya. There's so many things that have changed. The psyche has changed. Then what else, The territory could be manned by people, could be also through channel sales. And your territory could be named accounts. That I have to sell my piston rings to Renault. I have to sell my axles to Hyundai. I have to sell my, you know, grease or lubricants to Mobil or to Valvoline. So, you know, you have named accounts. You could be white labeling a lot of stuff. So that sales leader should be able to really understand what territories mean, should be able to, I'd say, create that funnel, that pipeline, and, you know, also look at the, you know, Philip Kotler says the P's of marketing. So earlier he used to say the 4 P's, now apparently it's become beyond 4. So, but product, pricing, positioning, and people, all of that is very important. And if you see that funnel in the slide, so you prospecting, how do you qualify your clients, what is the need analysis, how do you go and present yourself and your product to the client, then the negotiation, then closing the deal, and then the post-sale activities. In a lot of repeat sales, the product could be very, very comparable to many other products. But what we've seen is that there is the post-sale activity which has actually sustained the client for a very, very, very long time, you know. And with one of the construction companies that we were advising, I talked to them and, you know, sitting in a meeting, and we talked about lifts, the elevators. And they said, you know, they were optional. So we said, why aren't you going for Otis? They said, no, we want to go for Schneider's. And why? Because they said, you know, whenever we talk to them, if there is, you know, a problem, they are here to repair it in 10 minutes time. Their turnaround time, it's 10 minutes. And this is in a city as big as Delhi, in NCR, basically, you know. So you can imagine that the confidence, the post-sale activity is the confidence builder. Now, when you're hiring, you know, what is also important is get your team in, make them successful. You coach people, you should tell them, you know, what kind of a matrix are they going to be measured on. Like we said, you know, the report card, we're also used to it. And how are they going to, that last bit from the previous slide, how are they going to ensure that they are representing the company incredibly? And that becomes very, very important, because, you know, if they show the confidence, or if they don't show the confidence, then the buyer will always say, "Okay," you know. And I'm going to give you a very, very kind of a basic example. I was very keen on buying Skechers shoes, and I went to a shop, and they said, you know, this XYZ company, I don't quite remember the name, they are the manufacturers of Skechers in India. So I said, then how are they manufacturing? I mean, isn't that kind of, you know, clashing? So they said, yes, it was. And this is exactly what happened. So Skechers pulled back, and this company, you know, from the kind of huge contract that they had, they fell flat. And also because, you know, they did not train anybody in the market where there were the outlets, you know, to tell them that, you know, don't start talking about Skechers, talk about their own product, you know. So that credibility, you know, when they say, हमने तो Skechers के लिए बनाया, तो मैंने बोला ठीक है, मैं तो Skechers ले लूँगी, yeah, because I've used that and I know how good it is. So, you know, that how you come across to a buyer is very important. And that is something that the sales leader has to coach, train, handhold. Yes, now relocating after hiring slows down the sales process. Like we said, you know, you've hired thanks to fantastic resumes that you got on Naukri or on LinkedIn, and then you say, okay, you know, this is where I'm going to put you. So it's just not about physical relocation, you know, it is also about the territory. Maybe the person's worked and has been very successful in one territory and has not been successful. I can even cut down the territory size to only NCR. There might be people who are selling goods in, the university area, the civil lines, North Delhi. If that salesperson for certain product or services has been successful over there, you may see that he's not probably going to be successful in, the upmarket part of Delhi or Luton's Delhi, where you have, all the fancy big roads and big cottages and big houses. So it's the same city. So you will have to really look at how to define all of these things. You have to look at the customer. You have to, and what happens is, when the salesperson is settling down, your customer is still waiting, and that delay also, sometimes begins to hurt your presence in the market. Then there's low local credibility. If they do not understand, that selling maybe agarbatti in South versus selling agarbatti in Srinagar. I've had situations where people have wanted to push their products to Himachal Pradesh, to Srinagar, and it did not work out. And I'm not talking about agarbattis, but some other product. So it's going to be a very different situation. It is agarbatti. Everybody likes the house to be smelling good, but I want it smelling of, maybe down south, the Bela flowers, because everybody wears it and it's something so good. Whereas somebody else might want it, to be smelling like roses. So that also is very important. Then weak pipeline generation, because networks take time to build. You will have to actually look at, how quick you can help somebody settle in. Those first 30, 60, 90 days are very, very, very important. Very important. And that is where, if 30 day ka kya target hoga, 60 days ka kya hoga. And, it's not difficult. By the way, if your HR people are around, you can tell them that now, they can create 30, 60, 90 day structures. It's going to be very different for every product. If you're selling mineral water, it's going to be different. If you're going to be selling chocolates, it's going to be different. If you're going to be selling hotel rooms, it's going to be different. But a structure can be, if you're using AI, if you use Claude or if you use Gemini, it will make your HR people generate that kind of a structure in a heartbeat. They just should know what to put into those, as a requirement. So it's not difficult at all now. Earlier, yes, it used to be, in times when I started my career in sales, and I can say that, that building that pipeline was crazy. And maybe that was one of the reasons why I moved from sales to finance and accounts, and then eventually to HR. The higher attrition risk. If relocation expectations are unclear, people might say, "ठीक है, चले जाते हैं." But once, a Haryanavi moves to, let's say, Patna, he says, "Okay, I don't have a job right now. They're paying okay. I'm fine doing this for 6 lakhs a year, but I'll stay there for maybe 6 months, and then 6 lakhs becomes my base, and I'll look for something else." So that fuels attrition, and it hurts the organization. You are investing in somebody, you're sending somebody, you're also trying to train, and then 6 months down the line, the person says, "Sir, why did you send me to Patna? I don't even know the market. I don't even know the psyche. I am, sorry, I'm not able to perform over here. I'm leaving and I've got a job, and that job is giving me 7.5 lakhs. Thank you." So that is very often seen in a lot of businesses. And then there are longer sales cycle due to operational and personal disruptions. This is something that we see very often, that there are operational issues, setting out, like you said, the SOPs, the playbook, that is very important, especially if you have a product that you have sold in markets and have understood how it's making a difference to the lives of the customer. So what's the better approach? Decide the territory, which is the customer, what are going to be the travel expectations that you want to get out of people. Are they going to settle in Patna? Are they happy leaving their families behind and saying that, sir, I'll be happy going to Patna, but is it okay if you can give me 4 days off once a quarter, or maybe a week off once a quarter, because I can go visit my family and come back. And a lot of companies now are showing that flexibility. Gone are the days where we say, nahi, yahi karne ka, nahi jane ka ghar, because what happens is that those were the days where, there were fewer jobs and you were stuck with what you had. And then, yes, the local presence and model before hiring. What is it that locally, is your presence in the market, and how do you see the new hire taking it forward? So the roles. What are the roles? Sales development representative is somebody who will, like a med rep, prospecting, lead qualification. When the lead volume or outbound effort needs structure, then you go and hire the person. So if it's let's say somebody, and a lot of times door-to-door salespeople, I'm saying door-to-door because, like medical reps go to the docs, insurance agents. Then there are a lot of people who are selling, again, let's get back to food, they're going to sell their breads to mother dairy booths, or they're going to sell their breads to grocery stores. So that kind of, representative. Then there's an account executive. You give him a full account to handle. He's closing the deal, and that deal, that customer becomes his and follows a process. Then you have key account manager, very strategic, so it's beyond sales. Here is when, this person is also looking at expansion, it's also looking at how to retain this customer. And tomorrow, if you're selling breads, tomorrow if you want to sell butter, or tomorrow if you want to sell, maybe, create a cafe where we are selling our breads and we are also selling very good coffee, and where we know that this hotel is buying our breads, and we say that, hey, we can set up a very good cafe for you in your own premises. So key account manager does that. The other different role is channel sales manager. Now this is, when you are doing channel sales. So you, like Pepsi, like Coke, they are typical channel sales people. They're not going to the end user, the end customer. And here it's building the partnerships. Yeah. I don't know, I see this little red mark coming on my screen. I don't know where it's popped up from. I'm sorry, I think. Okay. So this channel partner builds distributors, dealers, how to position my product. If I have Coke, how does it pitch against Pepsi? And now we have, the Campa Cola is back, and Thumbs Up, and there's so many things, and it's not just about food, my shoes, my dress, my clothes, perfumes, anything. The sales manager, he could be a sales manager across any kind of sales that you're doing, whether it's channel sales or whether it's, direct sales. And that person is, I'm talking more of the level, elevation. Like we said, coaching and managing the team and the juniors, making sure that your team also grows with you. And then there is the CXO position. You have the strategy, you have people, you have execution, you have, many things that are impacting your business. You handle that. Whether it's, let's say if you're importing something, does that import, उससे क्या आपका pricing बढ़ गया? If अगर बढ़ गया, तो what should you reduce to ensure that, you don't mess around with your, or you don't push the pricing that high that markets begin to say, we will buy something else. So those things are with the head of sales. And of course the strategy. So today India, tomorrow MEA, maybe 6 months down the line, the US, you never know how things move. And sometimes they move very fast. Yes, now coming to the kind of salesperson. So, like we said, hunter sales and farmer sales. And the hunter is, yes, he goes out, gets the kill, and the farmer tills. So one kills and the other tills. And let's go down to what's what. So, in the context of sales, sometimes it's very important to have that killer instinct, because you know that here, that's the company I want to sell my product to. How do I make an inroad? And then you go, like this, absolutely focused, and like a hunter would go with a gun in his hand, and then go and get and say that, yes, I have got him. I have him in. I shouldn't use the word, but yeah, I have him. And then there's the other one who says that, here's a customer, very nice customer. They have been very, very good to us. We have been, working with them for so long. Let me just sort of continue to ensure that we are partnering with them forever and ever and ever. But this behavior, you can't find the same behavior in one person. There's a psychologist. There were two of them, Myers-Briggs, and this model is one of the most rampantly used models when we are looking at profiling of people. This identifies whether you have a killer instinct or you have a tiller instinct, and both of these bring very, very different strengths. There are times when you might need that killer instinct, but there are times when you have to really work and nurture. And what we have to do is we have to see how we can manage both in the business situations that we are in. Hunter. The profile will be extroverted, charismatic, risk tolerant, initiating sales, closing deals. मेरे को करना है, मेरे को करने का है. They have this hunger. We need to expand our revenue, better service, product offerings. Let me go out there. Let me pitch my brand. Let me be the brand that people want to see and talk about. Like, kill the menace. When I say kill the menace, the menace is the competitor. So they are very keen to go out there and say that, nahi sir, hamara product kidhar hai? It's way up there. Look at the others, their products are just, sort of not half as good as what we have. And that is how, maybe it's not always running down, but the other competitor, maybe it's all telling them that, this product has 5 good things and ours has 50. That's the hunter profile. What's the objective? Get a fix on the coordinates of the client, show the value to the client, overcome client indifference. Sometimes the client might say, ठीक है यार, तेरा insurance policy भी मेरे को मालूम है, इसका भी मालूम है, I will buy it online. You don't please talk to me about insurance policies. I know what it is. I've done a lot of homework. And then that indifference is what he has to change. Make your clients see the difference, like we said, in a similar offering. That guy gives you 5, I give you 50. And then, how does his mind work? He or she looks at what is the pre-sales work I have to do? How do I map the customer? What is his psyche? And then, moving forward, look at the benefits. Look at the long term versus the short term. Here I am doing something, which is probably going to be very, very beneficial to me if I were to look at the short term. But maybe not so much in the long term. But nevertheless, I'll go for it. अभी मेरे को आज पैसा मिलेगा, I will invest it in something else, but at least I'll get some money. So, let the client lead. Sometimes, yes, the killer instinct that the hunters have, they make the situations where the client will walk into the deal. You will offer him the organization, not just the sale. So, sir, we are there for your service. We will do this. Hum karega. Why are you getting worried? I know what to do. This is something that I've done, and see what a difference is made to X company, Y company, Z company, all of that. And then, follow through with what you say. That is something which is very important for the hunter. And eventually, hand it over to the organization, hand it over to the key account manager, who will then nurture this account for you. And who is the nurturer? The farmer. Because how much can you kill? In nature also, we see all around us, there's deforestation happening. Animals khatam ho jayega. Earlier, our predecessors historically used to go kill something, heat it, on a fire, eat the meat and fill their tummies. But gradually, things started to look different, and that's how farming started. And then we realized that, killing animals you can't go every day out and kill an animal, And even when you are, particularly in the Indian context, we have 42% Indians who are still vegetarians. So I can't even say that, okay, go have chicken every day. So one thing is very clear, that farming is continuous food funnel. So if your granaries are full, you will always have money in your pocket. So farming a client, nurturing a client, gives you that continuous source of income. So as a background, you have to know your client relationship when the hunter gave the client to you. Understand what is the client psyche. I mean, there are at least there's a list of 50 things that you need to know about your client. Location, his team, a lot of times you need to know the client's ownership details also. Is it a family-run business? Is it public sector? Is it private sector? Is it sole proprietorship? All of that. So that handover from the hunter is very important. And what were the decisions that the client likes to take in this relationship? And because if you let him do that, and if you know that it's going to be a win-win, then why not? But there are challenges, You might say, as a farmer, I put those pictures there, you have a farmland. One time you have drought, and the other time, you're flooded. So there could be many such challenges that you see. You might have a client which is sounds very, very, happening right now, but things might change. And that could happen sometimes in a very short duration. And also the client pressure points, The client himself might be facing competition for his product and services. The client, if it's not an individual, I'm talking about that. If the client is an individual, direct to consumer, there could be things like, tax rates going up. It could be things like, insurance policies saying that we will cover X, Y, Z, but we will not cover A, B, and C. It could be many, many things, and that's where that becomes a pressure point for the client, and he might want to negotiate with you as a farmer, saying that, nahin, please do this for me, please do that for me. You also need to know what are the offerings from your companies from a contractual point of view, the obligations, payments, what is the credit period, how much can you stretch, what is it that is going to impact your future relationship with the client. I mean, a lot of times, even understanding, what the client wants, and I put that picture over there, a bowl of beans. He might say, I want beans, मेरे को राजमा चाहिए. अभी राजमा आपने दिया. If you go out in the market, there's one rajma which is whitish, and the other rajma which is very dark and red, especially the one that comes from Jammu. So he would have said, no, I don't want that white thingy, yaar. I want the red one. Why are you like this? So even managing these kind of client pressure points, very important for the farmer or the key account manager. So, why hunt when you can farm? ठीक है, एक बारी शुरू में हो गया, उसके बाद I'll do only farming. See, why it's important is because the hunters focus on new leads and clients. Future, they're looking at way beyond today, way beyond tomorrow also. And the thrill of getting somebody new, you might, and when Tata started out, they were only in steel. And look where they are today. I mean, right from jewelry to clothes to hotels, that's the thrill. To IT, to, I think countless airlines. And that excitement will help the group grow also. Everybody will say, wow, this is a new domain we can go in. And that's why you need the hunter sales. The hunter sales spends their days in doing prospecting, emailing, cold calling. अभी देखता हूँ क्या होगा, कुछ नया हो सकता है. They identify, they qualify leads, and then they like to convert them into customers who are going to be happy, and who are going to keep them happy is the farmer. Okay, you give them over to the farmer, he'll nurture, he'll grow, understand. And yes, maybe I'm a farmer for the airlines business. I could be a farmer for maybe the hotels business of Taj. I could be a farmer for maybe the Tata Institute of Cancer Research, fundamental research, and and this is one group, but look at the diversity. So the farmer, we could have n number of farmers, each one of them looking at that, I would say, that produce, maybe one produces potatoes, the other one is mangoes, and the third one is wheat, and that's how diversified groups are. But what are they doing? They are relationship builders, excelling in maximizing the value of existing accounts, because I, as a buyer, then have a confidence. No, I'm so happy with Tata, I will buy anything of Tata. And that is how a lot of times we even आँख बंद करके, oh, Tata salt, कोई बात नहीं. अभी Tata has come out with I think food products like the wheat and the dals and everything in something called Tata Sampann. No, everybody says Tata hai to sahi hai. And that exactly is what the farmer helps you do. So who do we need? The confusion, there's always a lot of confusion, So, the hunter, new markets, new accounts, cold outreach, competitor displacement. Risk, if misused, may ignore relationship management and retention, बेचना है, मार रहा है, किल करना है, गोली मार दिया. Okay, गोली मार के हम घर लेके आ गए, and then we, chopped it and ate it and forgot about it. Whereas, the farmer looks at, like we said, upselling, renewal, long-term relationship, may create demand again from scratch. Tata का एक चीज मुझे अच्छा लगा, I'll buy the other thing also of Tata. Sometimes you have this hybrid also. Early stage expansion where one person must prospect and manage the account, and then at some point in time hand it over, but work in conjunction. And that working in conjunction is the hybrid model which a lot of companies follow. In particularly, if I were to look at the heavy engineering, in heavy engineering, one aspect is managing the client. I'm selling, let's say, ball bearings and axles and shafts. And on the other hand, I'm also looking at, the farmer coming with some other product in the automobile space and pushing it through, but using my relationship now. So that hybrid model also works very well. Then there's channel and partner sales. This is, like we said, markets need the channel sales, especially in the food industry, in the clothes and garments, everything, Much of it is sold through partners. And these days, partners are also online, Mintras and the Tata Clicks and many such platforms. The key point, if the expansion market needs new demand creation, then you have to get hunters. There's no doubt about the fact that that person should have the ability to go and grab and get the kill. If there is an existing customer density, farmers or account managers may be more valuable, Yes, you have that market, they believe in you, they believe in your product. So we will let loose more of the key account managers, or more of the sort where, let's say even if it's breads. I have this bread brand, I'm from Delhi, so Harvest Gold. So my key account manager, is still selling breads, and he might just pick this up from Delhi and say, okay, I'll push it to Noida. So that's not hunter sales. He will just still be a farmer. He will find new territories to take it to. Yeah. So that's the key point. And why did we spend so much time on this topic? And yes, we're running. We have to run fast. Each style brings different qualities and systematic combinations of sorts. Maintaining appropriate balance, like I said, is very important. The hunter brings in, the farmer makes the relationship. Like we said, the hybrid approach. The hybrid, there's a sales cycle, you find the leads, connect, qualify, present, overcome objections, close the deal, you nurture. And your key account manager does relationship management, talks about quality, talks about high performance, says, no, sir, anytime you need our help, we'll be there, talks about service delivery and the value that, oh, we will, कोई बात नहीं सर, आप आइए तो सही. आपने गाड़ी लिया है, you've got a BMW, I'll come and pick it up from your home. Oh, if you want, I can also get some, if you have a small problem, please let me know. I can come and send my team to fix it at your house only. So that relationship, and that's the reason why a lot of people are very keen to go for certain products, and they say, the kind of support and the value that we've got in this relationship is amazing. So yes, the hybrid approach is also very important, and in today's competitive environment, I think that balance has to be very, 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 very well managed. Any questions, please? I'm going blah, blah, blah. Yes, so this is that sales professionals with the hunter mentality are motivated by the pleasure of pursuing new prospects. The farmer tills land, client success, partner, manager, thrive. So this is really, and the balance is very important. And eventually, when a company is grown big enough, you will need both, and the balance to maintain will be very important. Now, build that winning team, right? Hiring. This is the piece which I should now be talking about very, very aggressively and quickly and emphatically. Not aggressively, more emphatically. History. 70s, 80s, there were employers, there were not so many qualified people. There were so few IITs, there were so few IIMs, there were so few engineering colleges. When I did my MBA, there were only 100, and I'm talking about 1992. There were only 100 and I think 14 or 15 MBA colleges across the country. Then came the 90s with Manmohan Singh ji opening everything. There was excitement, businesses began to expand, and they said we need more people, more people, more people. War for talent. And that's when the demand supply gap happened. So you might have seen people maybe in your friend circle, or if you're young, maybe people in your the senior circle where they've actually moved from job to job and got fantastic salaries, and I am one of them. So I moved from one job to another, and I actually got 100% raise because of the fact that I had the exposure that the other company wanted, and they could not find many people with that kind of an exposure. And that exposure with an HR person, because I was not pure HR. I had a background in sales, and I had a background in finance and accounting and in business risk review, so I could manage to do that. And those were the great times. Then came the 2000s. Direct connect with candidates primarily through e-platforms, like your LinkedIn and Naukri.com, and that became, why I am saying tumultuous, because बहुत कंपनी, बहुत लोग, कौन अच्छा है, कौन ठीक नहीं है, who will fit our, who's the right fit, is the person good for us, is the person going to stay with us, that was also important. And a lot of companies, they said that, never mind, I'm going to IIM to hire a person at 7 times the salary that I would pay if there was this person coming out from any other institute, but because he's brilliant. If he stays with me for 2 years also, he will give that impact to my business, which perhaps, the other guy might not be able to give in 5 years. So, that was, very exciting times, very exciting. And times of today, You have the Gen Z and you have Gen Alpha coming up very soon. This is, openings versus talent tarazu. Tarazu is the beam balance. Is tilted in favor of talent and not the employer. Why I say that is not because employers are not, there are just way too many jobs. No, there are not too many jobs. But the approach that the young generation is taking is, and much of them have had a very good conditioned life. A lot of them. Yes, you will still find some very good talent that you can groom if you go to the interiors of the country. But the other lot, who have, my parents had a very good life. My grandparents had a normal, not, I would say, they were not swanky, they were zamindars, so, they had ups and downs. But now, if I look at my children, what have we not given them? So they have become, though they're qualified, they have perfect degrees, they've scored well in exams, but they're like, take care. I have qualifications, I am intelligent, I know what to do, and nobody can push me around. So even, I'm giving you an example. I have a client, they are into automobile dealerships. Their attrition rate, despite the fact that there is no pressure, their automobiles are selling because people want to buy it. They're great vehicles. They walk in, they like the vehicles, they walk out with the vehicles. And the salespeople just have to be nice, kind, good to the customer when they walk in. But still the sales attrition is 40%. And why? मजे नहीं आ रहे. वही गाड़ी तो बेचना है. आज भी वही बेचा, कल भी वही बेचना है. Variety नहीं है. Arey, how much variety? We're not making pakoras, or we're not running a catering shop over here that every day we have a different menu. But yes, this is how that generation is. So yes, this is the ground reality. And in sales, people, founders, if you're here, you will have to deal with this. And dealing with them is not going to be by way of saying, करना पड़ेगा, नहीं करना है, चले जा, मैं किसी और को ढूंढ लूँगा. किसी और आएगा, next guy will come in and you will say the same thing. That guy will also go away. How many times are you going to do this? So we all have to change. And we'll have to change by design. There'll be a lot of psychology involved in it, but yes, we will have to go that way. And as far as recruiting is concerned, believe me, in my experience, there are very few organizational processes which are as uncertain and as unpredictable as a recruitment and selection process. Why? Every manager wants somebody aligned to his thought process, aligned to the way his organization works. My organization works 6 days a week, or rather 7 days a week. I'll work on a roster. I will not give you Saturdays off. I'll not give you Sundays off, because, and in 1 month I'll give you a Monday off, in the next month I'll give you a Tuesday off, so on and so forth, and that push with which we are that's impacting the team below. They don't understand the business. Why are we doing it? So explaining that, and the managers can't be just, I am the manager. I've told you, you do it. It's going to be very different. You have to get a buy-in. And that's what, your policy should say, your recruitment policy. That blueprint of how you want to hire people to retain them, to make them successful so that you become successful. That's very important. So, if high-performing expansion sales, what are you on the lookout? You have to look at these individuals, especially if you are hiring somebody with experience. And in a lot of startups and organizations where your revenue is in the range of about, maybe 5 crores to 100 crores, you would need people with experience. Yes, under that person, you might be able to eventually get a team like we talked about. So, what do you look at? Proof of self-generated pipeline, not only inherited accounts. In a new setup, if you're a founder, if you want to push, this is what is required. Ability to sell without heavy brand support. I am not a Tata, you know. I am, let's say, Madhu Enterprises, and I want to sell ice cream. What do I do? Can I sell it with that name? Have I done something like this in the past? Look out for that. If the salesperson has done something like this, ask a few more questions. Maybe he's the right person. Comfort with ambiguity in the new territory. Is he going to be comfortable being moved from Rohtak to Bhopal? Is he the kind who is going to say कि चलो मिल गया नौकरी अभी करता हूँ 1 साल के बाद छोड़ूंगा? The other bit, strong discovery and qualification discipline. You know, qualification is something I have done it for, again, let me mention it. I feel so proud about it. For a PSU, you know, this is a PSU with Gas Authority of India Limited. I do a lot of work in the CGD business, you know, compressed gas pipeline division, where we used to, you know, when they advertise, हजारों resume आता है, you know, and this is a pipe gas company in UP, and you know they wanted to hire a central procurement manager, and they had approximately, I think, about 260, 270 resumes for one open position, and this is, you know, after first round of shortlisting of resumes. So what did we do? We said, you know, everybody's background is a trace history. So if we make a resume rating, we will get to know what's historically been the case. So you might think it's doesn't work, but it does. We made a record of how much did he score in 10th, 12th, graduation, post-graduation, what were the choice of subjects, what was the tenure in each company that he'd spent, okay? And this is just qualification and experience put together. And that gave us some indicator. And so all those where we got the high indicators were called first, then the next, and the next. So this is something that you will have to also work on when you are looking at who to shortlist. Coachability and reporting discipline. Did this person have a reporting discipline in his previous company? Was he submitting monthly reports, weekly reports, or was it all okay? ठीक है, बता दिया, one email maybe when he closes the deal, but otherwise going silent. And a lot of situations I've seen that happen. They're out there in the market, but they don't inform what are they doing. They say, सर मैं इसके साथ बैठा हूँ, अभी काम कर रहा हूँ, सर हो सकता है 1 महीना लगेगा. And everybody starts to feel that, oh, the guy is really working hard, but you know, is there a reporting discipline that you want to put in place? Because if you do, you can see the results. Evidence of resilience after rejection or slow cycle. All of us go through ups and downs in life. How did he handle that slow cycle of sales? COVID days, or maybe some other, you know, situations, war situations. How did he handle that? Make market learning ability and not just relationship skills, you know. So has he been able to look at how does he acquire knowledge and keep it with him, and also, you know, relationship management. So many things, you know, these are just basics of when you're, we'll go to the next slides and look at some more granular details. And what is the mistake we make? We look at, you know, जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. We might feel that, yeah, here's a charismatic person, he speaks so well, oh, he also has industry contacts, he knows people in ICICI, he knows people in SBI, and wow, you know, he has he's really done a lot of work, and I think he'll be good. He's very impactful personality. But what we don't realize is that, you know, sometimes the person who succeeded in maybe one sphere, one place, might not be able to get that same success in another domain. Okay? Or, you know, very, very beautiful, very nice, but still not. I'm giving a bad example here, but anyway, it's a bad example. That, you know, when you say, go and see movies, you know that Smita Patil or Shabana Azmi, they were great actresses. They were not beautiful. And then you go and see a movie of Sushmita Sen. She's very beautiful, she's Miss Universe, everything, but you realize, छे इसको तो acting करना नहीं आता. So don't get carried away by what you see. And a lot of times that can actually happen, and I've seen that happen because reference से आया है. उसने बोला है कि बहुत अच्छा है. And you just ask a few questions and say, okay, yeah, I met the guy, he's good, and he's Dinesh Mahesh Ganesh has given me the reference, he'll work fine. And then, in the job, the person begins to flounder and fail. So also understand that expansion sales, we're talking about domestic expansion, is very different from just selling an established brand. And expansion sales requires a lot of thinking, a lot of knowledge, a lot of critical analysis of every situation, because they have to build a lot of things from bottom upwards. What kind of questions to ask if you're the founder? I'm just giving some examples. I probably have almost maybe, I don't know, countless questions. But in the context that we're talking about, which is more to do with territories, new expansion, domestic expansion. Ask them, tell me about a territory you built from zero. How did you generate your own pipeline? So what this tells us? It tells us does he know how to create a demand? Does he know how to manage it? Does he know to have the discipline to create a pipeline? I go and meet 40 people, but I convert only one. What kind of a pipeline am I working on? What was your quota attainment and average deal size? Yes, in B2B sales, this is very important. Very, very important. Which deals did you lose and why? And, the other follow-up question to this is that how did you deal with that loss yourself as an individual? Did it hurt you? What was the learning? What was the takeaway? I think those are very important questions, especially it's not a fair world. And a lot of times you do a lot of hard work. I'm saying that because I'm now consulting with a company. They're listed now on London Stock Exchange. But today they are on very shaky grounds because they had to get some funding, and they had a key account manager for investments in the company who was to get that money. He hasn't been able to do that. And the deadline to pay out their, I don't know what is the term really, something with board members, the non-something board members in the UK is today. So even they got listed a few years ago, but now see what they've done. So that is how you handle those laws, how you handle those situations. Then how do you qualify whether an opportunity is worth pursuing? You're running after, and you realize that you're pushing the person to buy Suzuki Swift, and the person actually wanted to buy maybe a Rumion or some other brand, because he says no, Maruti अच्छा है, but Toyota का service बहुत अच्छा है. So they might be the same. See, Toyota and Maruti have a lot of co-branded or other rebadged products. So you have a Glanza over there, and you have a Franks over here, and Ertiga and a Rumion. But how are you taking that? How are you pursuing it is very important. What support do you need from the company to succeed? Do you know your role clarity? Do you know the company's expectations? And that question from the founder or from the team who's interviewing is very important. How would you plan your first 90 days in the new territory? If somebody is coming to you for an interview, obviously he's done his homework. Well, if he's not done his homework, I think don't spend more than the first 10 minutes with the person. Having said that, if he's done his homework, you should ask him, I want you to sell mineral water for me in territories which are dominated by distillery. So what would you do in your first 90 days? If it's not 90, maybe in your first 60 days. Very important question, because that gives you the person's ability to think out of the box. Then, given an account to handle, what would your strategy be? That's a very straightforward question. And depending on what your product is, if you are uh, in a forging company and you want to sell to builders, if you want to sell some equipment companies, big equipment manufacturers, then this becomes very important for the person to understand, because in such setups you'll have a lot of decision makers also. It's not always the founder, because the founders might be a great techie guy, but he might be also dependent on his R&D team, might be very dependent on many things in the system. Yeah. If the client says he wants to only see the previous account manager, how would you handle the situation? You have been given a client to handle. अच्छा आप आ गए, ओ हो, अभी संदीप किधर है? संदीप आता था, वाई इज ही नॉट कमिंग? हमको तो संदीप से बात करनी है। अरे हमने इतने साल संदीप के साथ लगाए, उसको सब मालूम है, अब मैं आपको क्या बताऊं, पूरा कुछ बताऊं क्या? एंड संदीप इज अ गाय हु एक्चुअली रिजाइन्ड एंड लेफ्ट. ओके, सो these are again problem solving situations that will give you an idea about how the person thinks and how he can handle this difficult situation. So as a founder or as one of the top decision makers in the company, you will have to listen and look out for these specifics. People can talk about मैंने number किया, मैंने अपना target किया, मैंने 110% target किया, but on many things, there might be some weaknesses. Identify those. You might want to develop some very basic ones, but if there's something which is big, I would say, get another candidate. Building sales performance culture. A strong sales culture is built through clarity,
Madam,
accountability,
I'm
coaching.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
The last slide shows the questions should be asked to the interview. But in this thing, only technicalities means, for example, if he says that he has done so many things, we cannot go how to check the fact that he is answering in the questionnaire, in the interview.
Yes, so like I said, in one of my previous slides here, no, sorry, I think here, strong discovery and qualification discipline, I think that is somewhere, I think most companies have an employee. One is, of course, their resume, where they show off and they write all kinds of things, but you also have a form that you want employees, prospects to fill up. Okay. And like I said, this is just, a few questions. And if in some of these critical questions you do find that, yes, here's a guy who's answering as you would want to hear, then drill down, and get down to, so this is just a sample. Like I said, I have probably a battery of maybe a few hundred questions that one leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. For instance, I was interviewing right now with one of my clients, a person for hospitality industry. Okay, and this person says that I've done a lot of retail, I've handled customers face to face, this, that, everything. Though he was not from the hospitality industry, and one question led to another, and qualifications. I said, why wouldn't I hire somebody from the hospitality industry? What is it that is so different that they bring on the table? And he was lost. And he said, no, क्या करते हैं? वही तो करते हैं. Everybody handles customers only. This is for an F&B role. Please don't mind the noise in the background. I told my next door offices to hold it for a little while, but I think they were required for almost 2 hours, but I think they've just started to make that noise. So sorry about it. Yeah, so coming back, Shriji, to that question, you will have to see what is it that you are looking at in that resume. Okay, if you want the person to build a channel, then please direct and focus your questions towards his qualifications and his ground level knowledge on that activity. If you're looking at that person to nurture an existing client, then make those 5 or 10 questions and ask your HR to put them together so that you can drill down in. And you have to lead the interview. A lot of times, I've seen people who come for the interview, they lead the interviewers into asking them what they want to tell you. And that is where you sometimes at the end of the interview say that, no, but I actually wanted to ask him something different. वो तो बात हुआ नहीं. I couldn't speak to him about that because I got distracted by what the guy was trying to lead me to. End of the day, he's a good salesperson. He led you to talk about what he wanted you to talk about. So that drill down has to be. This is just the 5 or 10 questions here are just indicative. But on qualifications, like I told you, the resume rating thing works very well. How many years in one company, what has been the exposure, technical exposure to the product and service that you're trying to, him would be trying to sell in the market. So ये सब करने से one thing leads to another, and then maybe after the first 10 interviews you realize, okay, hey, this is what I want to ask. Whoever is coming for this role, every incumbent I'm going to control the interview. The incumbent is not going to control the interview. So, yes, Srijit, n number of questions. Yeah, you were wanting to say something?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then, now that you have hired, you have people, you have, and these are good guys, let's say, you've done a great job. Now you have to get them into that operating rhythm. And what is the operating rhythm? It is more to ensure that they don't get stuck in any bottleneck anywhere. Because you've hired a great guy, you've made the decision, your decision. You have assessed him. You have shown the confidence that he or she can do the job. So give them that environment where they can perform and do well. A strong sales culture is built through clarity, accountability, coaching, and reviews. Newcomers, and especially, if you're hiring people in the experience level of 0 to 5 years, reviews are very important. 5 to 10 years, I'm talking about literally a weekly review. 5 to 10 years, you might have to do, event-based reviews. Very often, the person says, hey, this is what I've done. Say, okay, come on, let's sit. Let's review it. And definitely a monthly review. And also give the person his job description. Not difficult. And I've seen HR people create job descriptions with run into 4 pages. For somebody who is, let's say, with 3 or 4 years of experience in the sales function. Arey Baba, why do you want to give him so much text? I was a salesperson. I hate reading so much. I'd rather show me the number, show me, what I have to do, and I'll be happy with that. But if you give me a 4-page job description, I'm going to be, looking at it and saying, okay, I'll read it on a Saturday. And on a Saturday or on a Sunday, I go out to watch a movie, and that document lies somewhere on the side of my desk only. And so things have to be precise. He also needs to know accountability. Who does he report to? Very clearly. And what top 5 things, please don't make a list of activities that individuals have to do, your salespeople, which runs into 15 line items. That is, a sales profile, especially a hunter sales. They are very focused people. You give them 5 or 10 things to do. 5 will be great, for them to handle. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th, they will sigh and maybe drop it. The key account manager, the hunter sales, the farmer sales might probably be happier with multiple things to do. So, train your people on brand, product, market challenges, what are your client relationships, and standard operating procedures. Please, that is better than the job description. Just a flow chart. And, push your HR people, push your HR teams to create that kind of, a job description where if he wants more details, he can come and talk to his manager. But a flow chart defines, where do you start, what do you do, what happens in the situation, a yes and a no. If it's a no, What do you do? If it's a yes, which path to take? All of that, it becomes very, very easy and very, very quick to assimilate also. Then you have targets. You want to give a weekly target, monthly target, or straight away an annual target. Okay, everybody in my sales level 1 has to bring me in like 10 lakhs a month, and so on. And mind you, ground level sales team and representative sales reps, you should load their incentives and their targets totally on their performance. Sorry, not incentives right now, but I'm talking about their targets. Me, myself and I, kitna main kar sakta hun. Okay, the next level, there will be impacts of the organization. The person will have to train. That is going to be one of his targets. Also, another level above, he will have to manage the team, have to train and coach them, will also have to be writing down the SOPs. Okay? Because if you don't have standard operating procedures, your teams will be all over the place. They'll be like, a bunch of flies which are just flying here and there. Then, also chota things you'll have to define. How do you know what clients to go for, at what stage should you push forward, and what stage should you exit? No, this is not right. I think let me not waste my time. So define, the pipeline, define what is going to go forward, and when is the time to put your energy into something different. Then reviews and, KPIs. Like I said, very, very important. If you don't have your report card, you will never know whether you're topping the class or you're in the middle of the class or you're failing the class. We're used to it, right? From kindergarten to post-graduation, we've seen that. Managers need to coach. I'm not saying that you have to have a coaching session. Sit down with the person, talk to him. Chal baith, bata kya hai, kidhar, where are you getting stuck? Oh, this is the problem. I'll tell you. This is how you can handle it. 5 minutes of that open discussion. Do that with your people. That will ensure that you've built that confidence, that performance confidence in the individual. Then comes the incentive. You have to reward people who have delivered. Okay? And sometimes it's not just top line or bottom line. There are many things that people do which deserve a reward. If it is just top line and bottom line, then why are we even paying incentives to CFOs? Why are we paying incentives to R&D people or to HR? Why? So it has to be other than just top line and bottom line. And that reward and recognition goes a long way. So, what should your sales KPI funnel look like? Activities, calls, if there are, at the bottom levels, how many calls have you done? How many meetings have you gone to? How many proposals have you sent? Have you done any product demos? If it's a software product that you're selling. They just capture the effort that the person is making. Because, remember that funnel that I showed you? And all sales is actually in a funnel manner. You have prospecting, then you have, by the time you're closing, it's very narrow. And this is how it starts. Then you create that pipeline. Then conversion. How do you convert? It shows the quality of selling. Here's a person who had 40 calls, 20 meetings, 8 demos, and 8 closures. So, how would you rate that? That is something that you will have to see. What is the quality of selling he's doing? Sales cycle length time and turnaround times, very, very, very important for many, many products and services also. And if you work fast, if you close fast, if you win, you move from one to the other to the other. But sometimes, like any fast moving vehicle, when you're going very fast, there are chances of an accident. And when you're moving very fast, you could rub something the wrong way, and that's what I call friction. So those are things that you will have to actually map in your particular business and see how it works. Revenue KPIs, yes, That's the easiest. Bookings, gross margin, revenue, bottom line, EBITDA, all of those, because we're all in it for the money. अरे कमाना है ना हमको पैसा. तो एक सबसे बड़ा तो यही है, बट उसके पीछे क्या है वो तो हमें देखना पड़ेगा ना. जब भी हम when we go to get a blazer made, okay, we don't just go there and say मेरा ब्लेजर बना देना, ऐसा तो नहीं बोलते ना. The size, the fit, the color, the lining, the how hot, how cool it is, all of that. So that if you give as the input, the output will be perfect. This is what this whole sheet is about, that you need to have indicators which are lead indicators, which are lag indicators. Work on both, okay, and then you will be able to actually have a sales team which will feel very motivated. It knows that, okay, I have to go in this direction, I have to go at a speed of 20 kilometers an hour, or I have to, I'm let's say in the dairy business, I have to ensure that my milk product reaches my outlets within 3 hours of it getting bottled. What should I do? How can I build that confidence with my dealer? And that you have to work backwards. So that KPI, how do you know if your dealer, if your factory is in Ghaziabad and if your outlets are Noida, Greater Noida, or if you are in Hyderabad and Balanagar and Shadnagar is where you have to take your product to, then that creativity has to come into the KPI. And once you know that yes, here's a person who's understood his KPI and who has delivered against it, and you have a fantastic blazer and you have milk products which have been delivered on time, 6:30 every morning, fair enough. This is how you're going to be able to manage their motivation also. And retention KPIs, yes, you retain a client, nothing like it. And that's where, so everything, by the way, every KPI has to be quantifiable, numeric. People say, अरे इसमें कैसे करेंगे, इसमें तो नंबर डाल नहीं सकते. Customer says कि मेरे को ये चाहिए वो चाहिए. Every customer is different, likes and dislikes. How do I measure likes and dislikes? Well, you can. You have a customer satisfaction index. Anything. If you are buying something on Blinkit, you see, every time you buy something, rate the order, rate the delivery, rate the product. If you're buying something if you're ordering food, rate the food, how is the packing, how is the delivery guy, everything, so you can. That quantification is very important. And that quantification is going to be a mirror to your salespeople. You can show it. Here are your numbers. This is what it looks like. So, check, review. What to review? Yeah, every week, weekly sales. You have to be practical, specific, action-oriented. You have to have, but it should not become boring. Yeah, that, oh man, this is like really boring, Every time you go and sit there and, boss asks the same question. Tell me how much have you sold this week? Sometimes I can't sell everything in 1 week. Yeah, sometimes I sell much of my product in the last week, and it happens. A lot of times you end up at the quarter end sales. In certain products are very high, and there's certain products which don't sell in months where it's raining, or they don't sell in months where there are or it sells very well Diwali time. So you have to be very, very specific about how you want to conduct your reviews. The review has to be a positive message going across. Even if somebody hasn't met his target, talk to the person, find out what is it. Is it the pipeline creation, the quality, movement of deals, where are you stuck, reasons for the loss, and then talk about the forecasting. अच्छा चलो कोई बात नहीं, last month whatever happened, how are you going to take this forward for the rest of the quarter? and ask them for the support they need. This is very important. If you show that you are oriented towards helping them out, they will help you out too. It's a two-way street. Sales, employment is not a one-way street. If we have founders in the group today, please understand, it's a two-way street. You cannot just, push stuff down that one-way street. There will be always, and if you have created that one-way street, then there'll be a U-turn in which people will just fall off the cliff, and they will not come back to you. And for the long run, what is important is your brand. Build that brand. नाम सुन के लोग बोले कि मेरे को इस कंपनी में काम करना है, and that's how things will also work for you. This is the incentive structure. Pay for behavior you actually want. I'm not saying just the soft aspect. If somebody is very polite, nice, बहुत अच्छा है, behavior would mean behavior bringing you the result. Okay? And if you don't have a good incentive plan in place, it is going to obviously damage your expansion. People say, क्यों करूँ मैं यार? And I'm telling you, one of my clients, they had people who were sitting in office, and we said, but why are you sitting here? Why aren't you going and selling? They said, salary तो मुझे मिल रहा है, तो मेरे को नहीं मांगता incentive. I don't want to go and sell. क्योंकि incentive मालूम है मैडम क्या है? Incentive वो unachievable है. I said, why is it unachievable? Ma'am, in the market demand is X and they are wanting me to sell 5X. Why should I even? It's okay, ma'am. Jitna bikega, I will do it. Otherwise, I'll sit in office, enjoy myself. So, ensure that your salespeople believe in the targets that you set for them. And what can you create it on? Commission on revenue, which is, sales ka growth kitna hua. On margins, which is, also very good, because a lot of times, I'll give you an example here. You've all heard of Cisco, okay? Now, Cisco routers, manufacturing and selling, they were sending it to their distributors. Now, a lot of salespeople for Cisco, what they were doing in the month end, they were I'm talking about Cisco people, not the distributor people, sorry. A lot of Cisco people, they were pulling out the routers, hundreds of them, and they were just dumping them with the distributor. The distributor wouldn't even pay that amount of money. But factory se nikal gaya, count ho gaya, oh, I took 30,000, they're not in the factory anymore. But eventually they realized that you pushed 30,000 out of our door, but we didn't get the money. So it is very important to understand, how to handle these games. Then there are companies which say that, let's give a little bit of discount. Having given that discount, you realize that little thin margin, suddenly, something else, price of something else went up. Metal ka price chala gaya. And you realize that you gave a discount to, let's say, Maruti. And on the dealership, the dealership says that, okay, I am the OEM, I say that, okay, go ahead, give a discount. And the dealer gives a discount, and then I realize that he sold a 5 lakh car for 4 lakh 45, and damn, mera to wipe out ho gaya profit, because metal prices have gone up, steel has gone up, something else has gone up, and it's just taken away the profit, and then the dealer begins to suffer also, and so do I. So, all these things are very important. How do you manage and quantify your targets so that you don't get stuck in something which becomes, kind of hits you back in your face? Bonus for new sign-ups. Yes, if he's got a great account, if you think, but retaining that account. So, until the paperwork is complete, your contracts are in place, and you begin to sell and ship. Till then, hold back the incentive. Okay? Maybe a lot of times, people have come back and said, ma'am, मैं account लेके आया, but finance वाले ने गड़बड़ कर दिया. And मैं क्या करूँ? I got you the account. And these people did not revert on time. And the guy went away to somebody else. Yes, those are situations which you will have to analyze to see, is he talking sense, or is the finance going to come back saying that, sir, there was a big hole in the contract, we would eventually in the long run would have perished because of it. So incentive planning and all that is very, very important, very, and especially in a B2B market, very important. In a B2C, in a D2C, not too difficult, because it's everyday count, and you can understand that, okay, things can work out. Then you have a bonus for strategic accounts, like we talked about. Here's somebody you want through your door, and because of that account coming through to you, your own brand has really, gone up very well. Team-based bonus. Yes, certain times, you will have to actually, it's a team activity. So you have a technical product, you have a pre-sales team, you have a sales team, you have a post-sales, then you have closure and contract management. So you might have to build an incentive for this entire team, because this works together. Okay, and the design principle here is compensation should reward the right customers, profitable deals, accurate forecasting, long-term growth, and not just short-term bookings. Everything, everything that makes sense to your business. You have started a business, I would say, for perpetuity. If it runs 1 generation, 2 generations, 5 generations, nothing like it. What's the transition? I think I'll have to just rush through it. I've been talking a lot. Transition, founder centric to founder driven. Founder centric is मैं करूँगा, मैं founder हूँ. Founder driven is I'm driving you to do it. आप करो, मैं आपको help करूँगा. How? Founder delegates. Sales people depend on founder to close important deals. Okay, this is the trap. Pricing expectation, founder. Customer trust. ओ अच्छा ये थे, इसीलिए मैं आपके साथ काम करूँगा. मिस्टर मेहता के साथ ही काम करना है, मुझे और किसी के साथ नहीं काम करना. Sales teams, the same playbook story, not being there. Sales manager report numbers, but not the real performance on the ground. So because why? Founder गुस्सा हो जाएगा. Founder will, I'll get into the bad books of the founder, and my God, if I get into the bad books, I'll not get the sales increment, and I don't know, maybe what if he turns me out? So, founder has to actually move to being the leader, the sales leader. And how does he do it? Delegation without leadership creates chaos. Many owners hire salespeople but do not give them real sales leadership. This creates a gap between expectations and execution. Simple English. Don't have to explain that. And why that happens is I am passionate, it's not because I do it on purpose. I started a company, I'm passionate. I want to, can't let it go. When little kids grow up and they graduate from school and they say, Papa, I want to go and study 800 kilometers away or a few thousand kilometers away, it does something to your heart. That's exactly what happens over here. You are passionate about it, you engaged, you're involved, you're emotional. So I don't say it's wrong, but in due course you'll have to reform and change yourself. So what owners have to delegate is the prospecting part of it. Okay, customer meetings, follow-ups, reporting, local travel, sales targets, and these become dependent on your own teams. They'll come back with the market information, they'll come back with on the ground reality. And what should you sometimes keep with yourself? The strategy, yes, broadly the strategy. Some pricing decisions if there are deviations, you, like I said, you cannot sell, and this happened with Xerox. Okay, Modi Xerox, if you know that company, they were one of the market leaders in photocopying and printing devices. And a lot of times these pricing decisions were delegated right down to the bottom. And these guys didn't know that we were not supposed to give 30% discounts. As a result, the bottom line got wiped out completely. Xerox said, we don't want to work with you, Mr. Modi, thank you. So that happens, Then in that situation, keep it. Keep the information with you. Deal prioritization, which ones to work for, which ones come first, which one comes second. That sometimes, you can keep up with yourself. Forecast judgment. You've seen the market, you know what things can work out. Hiring decisions absolutely at the top level, and please understand, you hire them at the senior level for them to deliver. Don't get into their delivery methodology. You give them the job description, you've given them the targets, you've given them your perspective of how you want to run the business. But Gaurav, aaj kya kiya? Gaurav is what? Gaurav is the head of sales, and Gaurav is like, I am sitting with the customer. Why am I getting the founder's calls? मैं कैसे काम करूँ? Founder मुझे 5 बार दिन में phone करता है. So somewhere be connected and yet be a little distant. So this is how. So salespeople are responsible for outcomes, but do not have the authority, clarity, or leadership support sometimes when they need to deliver. You have to evolve. You have to be a little different. Chief seller. Founder personally closes most deals. You can at absolutely top level, big ones. Sales coach, founder teaches the salesperson, sales architect, founder defines strategy, the whole structure. Definition dijiye, show him the path. Your parents held your finger to help you walk. But once you started to walk, they were around with you for a while to just show you what not to bang into, how to ensure that you're looking at the ground when you're walking and you don't trip over something. So this is what you'll have to do when you become a sales coach and an architect. Leadership builder. Founder hires and empowers sales leadership. I'm the founder. I have a team of 4 sales leads. Great guys. Let me help them out. Let me talk about what's sitting in my head, my ambition, my strategy. Ambition is very important. If you understand what your ambition is and how that ambition is going to make them successful and how they are going to reap benefits out of it, nothing like it. Do that. Founder reviews performance through metrics, not personal involvement in every deal. Like I told you, every time Gaurav, what you doing? Gaurav, where are you? And Gaurav is like, hey, I have 23 years of work experience. I'm sitting with a client. I'm trying to close deals. Why is Ganeshji always calling me up? So those kind of things can actually irritate seniors, and then they say, "Okay, yaar, I'll go and work for a multinational." And a multinational, that's the reason why people work for multinationals. Is because they have a structure. Somebody sitting in UK, France, Australia, Germany has made that structure. You have to follow it. And because you follow it, life is easy. That's what we'll also have to do over here. The founder should move from being best salesperson to building the system that produces the most effective salespeople. If you've built your organization, if you build your product, build your people also. Yes, successful market expansion is not a geographic decision. Focus the market effort, match selling motion to growth goal, put the right talent, turn activity, all of this. As a founder, keep this in your head, at the back of your mind, that this is what I am here for. I am an ideator. I created an idea. I've marketed it. I've brought it to a point where I need somebody to take it forward. Okay? So when you are doing all of this, understand which territories to go for, what is your strategy, the role that you have to hire, how do you design the KPIs, and your own transition from being a founder to being a strategist founder. So ready, steady, go. Do not expand because market is attractive only. Expand when sales organization is ready. Expand for long-term sustenance and brand building. That becomes your mantra, and that's how you should move forward. And this is not I forgot, I think this is from somebody. Oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot. Expansion succeeds when market demand is matched with the right sales design, the right people, the right leadership, and the right operating discipline. I think this is Steve Jobs, if I'm not mistaken. So everything leads to the see, everything in life is connected, you know. If you're nice to your neighbors, they'll be nice to you. If you're nice to your maid, to your driver, they'll be nice to you. Similarly, you know, right sales design, you have to be smart enough to make that design, the right people, the right leadership, right discipline. You know, you make something and then you say, अच्छा छोड़ दे यार, वो लिख दिया था, वो एसओपी बनाया था, अभी छोड़ छोड़ छोड़, मैं बताता हूँ देखो नया कुछ करने का है. I have something different, I'm thinking something different, let's change the way we work. If that happens, then people begin to say, अरे यार लाला जी रोज अपना कुछ प्लान चेंज करता है. And then you know what happens is, then you become, you're termed as a lalaji. And I'm talking about over 69 clients that I worked with in the last 13 years. And I'm also saying the same for certain big ones also involved over here, but were owner driven. अरे साहब तो कुछ भी बोलेंगे यार, अरे कुछ नहीं, अरे बदल जाता है, इनका रोज प्रोसीजर बदलता है. So don't be there, please, because if you are disciplined, your whole team will become disciplined and your whole system will follow that discipline. The last bit, the assignment. Should I just leave this with you, and if you can just, you know, work on this and send it back to me, is that okay? So there were a few assignments that I thought about. How do you design an interview scorecard? How would you build a sales dashboard? Create a 90-day onboarding plan for your salespeople. Design a result-oriented sales organization, you know. Build the ideal salesperson profile. Result-oriented sales organization. And so now let's go back to this slide. Anybody wants to just throw some ideas on this? You know, if you were to do interview scorecard, give me 2 things that you would want to include in those, or 2-3 things. Anybody, please come back. Talk to me. I'm so tired talking only one-sided. Naved,
Yeah, Reena.
do you want me to, if it's possible, if you can share this with the cohort,
Definitely.
and
Definitely.
then let us.
Probably we can convert into uh, a working document, basically,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
that it is easier for them, a format. If you already have one, you can share it with me, else
I will share it
I
with
will
you.
convert it, get it approved from you, and share it with all of them. Probably one suggestion is, maybe we can uh, ask them to write one JD for the most important hiring they are looking for, so that
True.
uh,
Yeah.
probably without using the chat GPT.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so that
You know,
so that
exactly.
we can also understand what exactly is going through your mind right now, in terms of the JDs, and probably we can get back to you with some exciting ones, right? So this input would be really interesting.
Mr. Srijit wants to say something.
Yes, ma'am. Most probably, candidate information form we have introduced before the interview. So in that, all the criterias what we are looking, and how many year he is or she is in the same industry, and the past experience of, and the numbers of the his reporting managers, so that we can understand how or she or he can be asked about the customers, means the salesperson's attribute towards the
Agreed,
sales.
agreed, agreed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think what Navid also suggested is interesting. I will forward. I'll create, you know, like a document on this, and you know, when you're interviewing, you also have to give weightages. You know, should I give weightage? A lot of companies, I mean, I shouldn't say company, but you know, an educational institute that I was consulting with. This is Amity, you know, when they were hiring profs, they were giving a lot of weightage purely on academic scores. That was number one. So 50% weightage was because they said, if he has knowledge and if he's given the exam, that's the knowledge he'll be able to pass on to the students. So in your scenario, if you could maybe if not 8 or 10 competencies, but even if it's like 4 or 5, and show us what kind of weightage would you want to give to those, that'll be really nice. It's a small exercise, but it'll only sort of uh, give you a sense of knowing what it needs to be done, and maybe guide your HR people also, or maybe do all of these exercises, the KPI dashboard, 90-day onboarding plan. And now it was very right, when you were talking about using chat GPT, it will give you something so generic that it could it might just run down your business, because you need specifics, you need something. And you can't say, hey, I'm in the business of manufacturing fans, and what should be the salesperson's attributes in selling fans. I mean, they will probably look at score the whole net across the globe. Maybe that thing doesn't work for selling fans. Why I said fans, I'll give you a very small story. My uncle was in Usha International, and he was heading sales. At that time, not heading sales, but he was posted to head sales in East India. He went to Patna, and in the dealership, and I'm talking about, this is 1990, I think 1992 or 93, long back. He went and he asked the dealer, he says, आपका दुकान खाली क्यों है? Where are the fans? So he said, ये poster देखो ना, all these posters are सारा fan का poster है. But why? He says, why? Because मेरे district में अगर मैं fan रखूँगा तो somebody will come, put a gun on my head and walk away with the fan. And this is the ground reality I'm talking about. So sometimes these things have to be very, very closely watched, and every business is different, and chat GPT might not be able to give you this input at all. They'll say ki are Patna mein you want to hire a salesperson, he should do this. I don't know how things are in Patna now, but this was an outlet in a Patna district called Ara. It is somewhere close to Patna, only some 30-40 kilometers away. And he came back and he said, this is the way things are. He says, how? I don't know how to sell fans. Well, he retired as the head of sales and marketing, must have done well in his life. But see how different the ground realities are. If you go and ask chat GPT, it would have given you some random thing. And on the basis of that, if you shortlist people, you will definitely have a wrong incumbent. So these are some assignments, and there was another 2 assignments over here. Build the ideal sales profile, for your business. I mean, if you can do that, I can really help you with that. Top 10 competencies, what you want for your product line. If you're an engineering product, if you're pharmacy, if you're, let's say, maybe foods or cosmetics, or just software, or some techie product, like maybe chargers, maybe I don't know what, but if you can do that, I think I'll individually I'll be able to help you out also. And then working in teams, oh my God, this is something that becomes very important, especially when you are in a B2B business, like I told you, business to business selling. If you are in a space where you are going in for government tenders, all the more critical. So I'll share this with Naved, and I think if he shares it with you and you can put your thoughts together, I'm not expecting you to write long papers on it, Thoda points, 5 points, 2 points, 3 points, and then we can discuss.
Well,
Any questions?
okay, so one thing to add, I hope all of you have created your own areas where you would like to deep dive. As Reena said earlier, that she could have taken you through on these topics like for 6 hours straight, but we are putting it together in 2 hours. And wherever you think that you really want to deep dive, I think you can make your notes. You come back with your ideas and discussion points and everything wherever you want to deep dive. There is one-to-one sessions available with Reena from next week. In the meantime, you can just go through with all these points. You can figure out few things so that later you can sit with Reena and deep dive and figure out the most critical areas where you think, according to your industry, current challenges, maybe with the current force you have, what can be changed, things like that, right? So I think this is it. If you have questions, please put it
Yeah, or if
across.
there is some experience that you would want to share, so that we might be able to see how that could become a learning for all of us.
Yeah. In the meantime, I'm just launching a poll as well
Okay.
for the participants. As usual, you need to go through these 7 questions, and then, and if somebody have any query, question, you want to share something,
Please, yes.
platform is open.
Yeah. No questions. Very silent.
I think everybody's filling the feedback form
Maybe,
right
yes,
now.
yes, yes. This must be the time that they're filling the feedback form.
Because if they don't fill it
Um,
here, we chase them to fill it later also. So
Better now than later. Now they're in the session. एक बार हो गया हो गया. Great. But for every organization, sales eventually becomes the breadwinner function. Yeah, because no doubt about it.
so quickly, please fill the feedback form. Yes. All right. We have 2 more minutes. Complete. Rest of you, please.
Madam, I have a question. Uh,
Yes, please.
we are into manufacturing of hydraulic cylinders, and it's basically used for the OEMs.
Okay.
And we have a salesperson, but I need more sales team to be. But it's an experienced guy with the same segment. It was passed in another company, but it is expensive also. So it's hitting our revenue also. So how to build a sales team with experience and this OEM crack, because OEM cracking is a little bit more time taking process.
I know, I know. See, what I have seen has worked successfully is that initially, when you're starting out or when your business is not maybe a few thousand crores, at that point in time, you are the founder, it's your experience. If you get a strong salesperson and not focus at, here's a person with, let's say, 20 years of experience I'm getting, or 15 years of experience I'm getting, and he's asking me a salary of, let's say, 45 lakhs. Should I say, no, I can't afford it? Or should I bring him in and then tell him that I am giving this to you provided you create a sales team, you are the one who are going to drive it, and coach, train, ensure that they are retained. Having done that, I will put you on a let's say a 30% incentive plan if you meet all of these. Because yes, it's very challenging if you're hiring people, and cracking OEMs is not easy, and because I don't know about how many similar product companies like yours are there competing with that mind space of the OEM. OEM also tend to play sometimes a very, they have the high-handed behavior. अरे आप हो, अभी दूसरा भी है, अरे we are talking to them, so if you have a person who's experienced and who can pass this experience on to the younger sales team also. Maybe today you have only two people, this one senior and one junior. But if you want to get two more juniors, and this sales person is the sales leader, then and building an in-house team is much better than headhunting, going out saying that okay, let me get this guy from this company, this company, मैं Ford से ले आता हूँ, मैं GSA से ले आता हूँ. All of that is doable, but somewhere when you're homegrown, and I'm talking from experience, and I joined a company. It's in the oil field services. It's called Schlumberger. It's the global largest oil exploration company. And I had very little experience, but they said that no, you can do it. And maybe whatever they saw. So if you see that potential in somebody and you believe that he or she can do it, they will do it. And what was my next step? I built my team. And they built their teams. And I was with that company for, I had to leave them because I didn't want an overseas transfer. I was with them for 9 years. And it was purely the belief that they showed in me that, I could do it, that I said I will do it. And thereafter, cascaded it down to the next level and the next level and the next level. Okay? So, yes, it's not so straightforward, but it's not difficult at all.
Okay. And there was a person to guide you regarding this sales
Yes,
process.
yes.
Okay.
That is that, and you know what happened emotionally, psychologically, I didn't want to let him down. So even if, like I said, I was giving an example, that in the beginning I said that, we are millennials, if somebody says work till 9:30 in the night, we used to do that. Only because I said, oh, I have, this person's put his faith and confidence in me, I'm not going to let him down. That worked.
Okay. Thank you.
You located
All right.
in Hyderabad, Mr. Nair?
No, I'm in Rajkot, Gujarat.
Oh, Gujarat. Rajkot. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
All right. So, one last thing, my personal experience, most of the time, because I ran a couple of companies earlier, so little experience of what I can share is that my best hires were the people I had good conversations outside the interview questions.
Absolutely.
When I build the conversation for half an hour, 1 hour, when I'm not asking the questions, and they were not replying the pre meditated answers, I got the best people. So that is one thing which I think it's can be a
That's a good
takeaway for
point, and
you.
that's exactly what I was trying to say. That you be in control of the conversation. A lot of times I've seen interviewees lead the conversation, and I've been sitting and watching, and I'm like, आपने ये क्यों किया? आपने ये क्यों? Why? I was telling the founder. I said, why did you sort of follow the route that he was leading you on to? I said, he's a smart guy, no doubt about it. So yeah, and for senior positions particularly, anybody with experience level of, I would say, 8-10 years plus, the interview shouldn't be like you're shooting questions. It should be, and in a conversation interview, you will understand that you unveil that person's behavior a lot more than very directed questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once you realize and understand the person's behavior, then you can also see the cultural fit. You can also see whether the person is going to be able to work with you or not. So that's something that works very well. Conversation interviews, especially the senior levels, are the way to go.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Reena. Thank you so much for your time and this session. And I think we are going to expect a lot of a lot of inputs coming in after this, a lot of food for thought. And I'm sure they will go back, reflect what is happening right now in their own context, and come back with the feedback. And we can call it assignment, but that is kind of a thought process which we would like to capture what is happening in your organization, and then probably a very targeted on point one-to-one sessions followed by this can really help you. Okay, so with this, I think we close the session for all of us. And thank you for joining once again, all of you. Thank you so much, Reena.
Thanks a
Thank you.
lot. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I hope it was helpful. Bye bye. Have a nice day. Bye.